ready and setting out on the adventure that we're going on this year, I've been thinking about where we've been for the past couple of years. And so, you know, the last 2 years really have been about awakening to what it is that we value, right? We spent a whole year figuring out what we thought was important and what we valued in our life. And then this past year was about having the courage to put that into practice and to live our values first, you know, and how courageous how much courage it really takes to live a spiritual life. So this year, you know, we're stepping into a new beautiful round number, right? Like it's one of those beautiful round ones, and we could get into the debate whether the decade starts next year, or whether it starts this year, or whatever, because there is this little controversy over that, whatever. But it's a really nice round number, and hello, 2020. What am I supposed to do with that, right? How can I can't not do vision. I can't not do it, right? 2020 is perfect vision. And so this year, we are going with the perfect spiritual vision. And so, I had this experience that happened this morning, and I was trying to decide if I was going to tell you about it, but obviously I am going to tell you about it. So that just really brought to me, because, well, let me start with this. I've had a really nice vacation. I don't know about you. 2 weeks off, being in my house with my family, playing Wii. I still stink at Mario Kart. My daughter kicks my butt. But, you know, like just spending time together. We saw a bunch of movies. I really did love the new Star Wars, just in case you're wondering. I really liked it. Some people didn't. I loved it. You know, and just had a really nice. So when it was time to get up to come this morning, now, of course, I always love it when I get here, but I got to get up so early, and I've been up late a lot, and it took me a little bit to drag myself up this morning. And as I was driving in, I had this experience that just reminded me, hello, wake up, you know. And so this is the story. I live in Fallbrook, right near what used to be the Fallbrook Golf Course. And on the golf course, there's this little pond. And for a number of years, there was an egret that would come. And it would, I don't know if it lived around the pond, but it was kind of close, because it would frequent the pond. And that meant that it would come up into our neighborhood sometimes. So I'd be sitting out on our back, I'm up on a hill a little bit, and I would see this beautiful egret soar, you know, float right by. And sometimes I would come home and it would be walking in the front yard, or as I came up my street. But what happened was the golf course went away, and the pond was drained, and the egret left. And my heart broke, because I loved that. It reminded me that I'm connected to the divine. When you're connected to nature, you're connected to the divine, right? And so I was very sad for a long time, but what happened was this man came in and bought the golf course and turned it into a vineyard, a little winery coming soon, down the street from my house. Okay. And they refurbished the pond, right? So as I was driving down the road today, I pray on my way in, and as I'm driving down the street, I notice out of the corner of my eye 2 beautiful egrets soaring and circling into land on the little pond there. And I breathed a breath of gratitude, and I remembered God. Because this is what I think happens at the New Year sometimes. New Years are great, we have a great opportunity, but there's something bittersweet about a New Year, isn't it? Sometimes we can get into a place where we like what has been. I like what this was. I liked this experience, and whether it's a relationship or a situation, a group of friends that were close to you and somebody moves away, or, you know, as we know, you know, we lose people. Things change. That's the one thing we can count on in this life is change. And sometimes it breaks our heart a little bit that we're losing something that we've loved so much. And some people may be thinking about this past year or a situation in your life that you may be afraid to let go of. But what I remembered, what God reminded me so beautifully this morning, is that we don't know what the blessings are that are going to come, because you know what? God just expands. God just unfolds. God just multiplies. And so not only did I get 1 egret, I got 2. Right? And it was such a beautiful reminder that I don't know what's coming down the pike. I can't tell you what this year is going to bring for you. I can tell you that it's going to bring you life and all that looks like. It's all over the map, right? But I know that with our spiritual tools and with our understanding and what we've got going with us, living a life with God, I know that we can not only handle anything that we want, but we can create what we want despite it. Despite any challenge that shows up, despite any rocky road that we hit, despite anything that shows up, there is the possibility of grace. That's what I thought when I saw those two egrets this morning. I was like, yes, there's grace. That is God's grace showing up to remind me that there's still joy. That there may be change, but there's still joy. And there's still light, and there's still love. And that's what developing spiritual sight is all about. So this year we are developing our spiritual vision. We know that 20/20 sight is perfect, right? So they say, have you ever had someone say, well, I can see better. Colors are brighter, they're more vivid. Whites are more white. I can't believe what I'm seeing, And the people who have that are the ones that either just had cataract surgery or got their eyes checked for the first time in 10 years, right? And what happens is that we don't even realize that our eyesight's going. There are times when we can't even realize that our eyesight may be shifting a little bit, or it might be sliding a little bit until you go and you have that eye exam, right? And all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, now I can see. And you get a new pair of glasses. That's the idea of what I'm looking at when we do this perfect spiritual vision journey this year, is for us all to wake up to the fact that we have not been seeing clearly our spiritual life. We have not been seeing clearly through the divine eyes of God that are implanted within us. We have forgotten how to see what is truly in front of us because we have been brainwashed, we've been hypnotized by the limitations, by the material world, that we forget what's possible. So my idea, and today is just kind of laying the groundwork for this, my idea for this is for us to raise our spiritual vision high enough that we can get out of the weeds and we can see the beautiful vista of life. That we can rise up and hold true to what we know to be true so we don't get stuck in what's happening in the world. We don't get stuck in the despair and the limitation and the pain and the difficulty. Because let's face it, there's stuff going on in the world, right? I don't know about you, but I took a half break from the news over the holidays. I tried to be off my electronics when I wasn't binge watching Gilmore Girls, but but I tried to stay away, and even in my half understanding, I realized that there's a lot of tumult happening right now. There's stuff happening with our government, the whole impeachment thing, we've got stuff happening with Iran. Let's face it, there's a lot happening in the world. Never mind the fact that it's an election year. Hello, here we go. Hold on. We don't know what's coming. And all of that can drag us down into a place that I like to call the washing machine of life, where we get tossed in the spin cycle, right? We get tossed and turned and shaken and pushed and all of that. And we can live like that. We can live with our emotions tied to what's happening in the world and our fear and our pain and our worry about what's happening, or we can rise. We can rise into a place where we understand that this may be happening, but I know that God's got this. And not only in some Pollyanna way, but to see through the challenge into realizing that something is being born out of this. Something is being born in each and every one of us, calling us to not only a higher way of seeing, but a higher way of being. So that everything that we do and everything that we see and hear and think and do contributes to creating what we want to see happen in this world. It's not like us watching a TV of the world, right? We are participants in what we're creating. It doesn't matter who we are and what we do. With our consciousness, with our awareness, with our mindset, with our life, we are giving to this world. And we have an opportunity to make a difference and to bring more peace, more understanding, more kindness, more light. We have an opportunity to do that. And we are being called to do that now. And so the idea that I've got for us to do it together, and I say this every year, but what I think of these themes, these annual themes, are that we're holding hands trying to get to the playground across the street. So as kindergartners, holding hands, trying to walk across the street safely, making sure that everybody's together. Let's go, right? That's the kind of, there I am, Reverend Katherine, saying, come on, everybody, let's go on the slides, because we can get there, we can do it. But we have to do it together. And we have to be willing to lean in and do our own work. So it's about creating peace and joy in our own life and seeing Spirit operating in our own life and out in the world. And so the way that we do that is by keeping our eyes high. It's about our spiritual sight, what we see and what we don't see. This year is about what we're longing to see and what we refuse to acknowledge even though it's right in front of our face. I like to talk about the spiritual path about developing our spiritual sight, our ability to see through the experience to what is trying to be born in it. I'm fond of saying that in every experience in our life, something of the divine is trying to be born. And so what you can look at is that a challenge in a relationship, if you have a challenge in a relationship, what's trying to be born is more compassion and more understanding. When you can see that if you're having a challenge in your work life, what's trying to be born is more of an acknowledgement of your worth, of your ability, of your creativity. And so we can approach those challenges that we're experiencing personally or in life from that way. Because when we can accept the gift, the challenge goes away. When we can step into our power, when we can speak our truth in our relationship with love and with light, all of the conflict calms down. And it's the same thing in the world. When we step up and do our own work, everything else settles and calms down. And so when we start to develop our spiritual sight, when we realize that there's something else happening here, it's not just about people being mad at each other. It's not just about living a life that we try to get more. We have to win at all costs. It's not about that. We are being called to acknowledge that God is the center of our life. I went back this week to one of my favorite passages from the Bible, which is from Matthew. See, it's been a while. My voice isn't, I didn't talk that much when I was on break, although my husband might say different. Oh. Yay for learning more. Okay. So, my favorite scripture is Matthew 6:22-23, where Jesus taught that the eye is the lamp of the body. If the eye is single, the whole body will be full of light. But if the eye is damaged, then the body will be full of darkness. And I love that scripture so much because it reminds me that no matter what, I have to put God first. God has to come first. I have to remember the truth of the divine as my life, that divine is the truth of my being, that divine that is the source and support of everything that I am and everything that we are first. Because if I can't live in two worlds, I can't live in knowing that it's all God and thinking that somebody's wrong. I can't live in a world where I know that everybody is worthy and worthy of love and then hate someone. I can't split my life that way. I have to do the spiritual work to remember that as I look at the divine, as I hold that light of God, it is the truth for me and it's the truth for every single person. And if I've got a problem, I got to figure that out. It's about me. I can't blame anything outside of myself. I just have to dig deep enough to be able to put it in perspective, to see differently, to see clearly. Excuse me. So that's the idea, is that I have to remember that my connection is to God. I have to remember that life is for me. I have to remember that there's nothing outside that can steal my peace of mind, that can steal my worthiness, that can steal the presence of love that's alive as me, unless I give it away. Because if I succumb to this hypnotism of the material world, what's gonna come true for me is what the beliefs of the material world are, which is it's a dog-eat-dog world, and you better get your own because there's not enough for everybody, and it's you or first or nothing at all. And we have to win at all costs, right? Winning. Somehow all of a sudden winning seemed to be the best thing ever. And it's so funny because I played some games with some friends over the holidays, and I was kind of like, oh, winning. It put it in a new spin for me when all the kids were like getting upset about winning or losing or whatever, and I'm trying to teach it as a lesson. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And they just all laughed at me. Again, I played a whole heck of a lot of Mario Kart Wii, and I lost a whole heck of a lot, you know? And it just reminds me, what am I going to do? What am I going to believe in? Where am I going to put my energy and my effort? Is it about that? Or am I going to rise up and remember that this life really is about supporting our freedom? It's about supporting us in remembering that we are worthy of that. And reminding us that we have the creative capability and possibility of bringing forth what we want to see happen in this world. That's what that scripture says to me. My eye, which includes not only my true eyesight, right, our eyesight, but our knowledge, our intuitive knowing, your heart cannot be split. It needs to stay single, and it will be full of light. And so that means that our spiritual practice is more important right now than anything. Whatever your daily practice is that connects you to that presence that's alive within you. You know, for me, it's a feeling of something greater trying to come through me. And maybe it's through meditation, and maybe it's through putting your feet in the grass and hugging a tree. Maybe it's standing at the ocean. Maybe it's whatever it is for you, a walking meditation, chanting, singing, whatever it is that connects you to that deepest place of yourself that bubbles forth with joy is the most important thing we need to be doing every day. It's even more important than working out, even though every ad and everything that you see outside right now is telling you need to go to the gym, right? Right? Yeah. No? No, it's just my Facebook feed, I guess. It's telling me. My Facebook knows how much I ate over the holidays. So that's the difference between developing spiritual sight and the blurred vision that comes from human confusion. Because we get confused, our minds get cluttered. We get mixed messages, we try to sort it, and we can get stuck in that maelstrom, that craziness, right? And so the idea is we're going to rise. We're going to lift our eyes to that divine truth in every moment and stick to it so completely that all we see is the divine life coming forward. All we see is that possibility and potential that is as real as anything else. I found some predictions of old that gave me a chuckle this week. Because again, I was thinking about the fact that here we stand in the beginning of the year and I can't tell you what's going to happen. And I hope that everybody does our intention sheets this year. What you can do is we have a box in the back, and if you want to write some intentions or a letter to yourself about what you want to see happen this year, you write it out, you put it in a self-addressed stamped envelope, put it on our prayer box in the back table, and the practitioners pray over it for the whole year, and we send them out at the end of the year. Did you get yours back this year? Everybody who did them last year, did you get it back? Yeah. And so, actually, Diane, can I get a cough drop, please? And so, I encourage you to do it. So what I did was I found some predictions that I thought were funny, and I thought I'd share them with you. So this is the thing. In 1876, American President Rutherford B. Hayes told Alexander Graham Bell, you know, the telephone's an amazing invention, but who'd ever want to use it? In 1895, Albert Einstein's high school teacher said, doesn't matter what he does. He'll never amount to anything. Oh, sorry. I'm going to give a good cough and then we'll see if I can get it out. Oh, goodness. Everybody all together? In 1939, the New York Times proclaimed, "The problem with television is that the people must sit and keep their eyes glued on a screen. The average American family doesn't have time for that." In 1949, mathematician John von Neumann said, "It would appear that we've reached the limits of what's possible to achieve with a computer technology." And in 1873, Sir John Ericsson The surgeon extraordinary to Queen Victoria said, "The abdomen, the chest, and brain will forever be shut from the intrusion of the wise and humane surgeon." Right? All right, so fortunately for all of us, projects like the computer, the telephone, and modern surgery had champions as well as naysayers. These great ideas came into reality because people who were able to dream about what might be rather than hold fast to what everyone else said couldn't be. So as we begin this new adventure this year, I encourage us all to remember the divine presence of God in our lives every day, to hold tight to possibility and not succumb to despair of limitation. And so when things are happening out in the world and we have a challenge with it, I encourage us to do what Ernest Holmes says. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, says. He says this: "With a penetrating spiritual vision, I can dissipate the obstruction, remove the obstacle, dissolve the wrong conditions. Standing still, I can watch the pure manifestation of the law." So what he says is that with our vision, we can see through it. With our vision, we can imagine and open to the possibilities of what could be, of the direction we want to go in, what we want to see, what we want to experience in our lives. And then we hold to that vision so tightly that we look at it and watch the things of our life dissolve as the manifestation comes forward. But we have to keep our eyes single and on the truth. I keep saying eyes on the prize, eyes on the prize. Eyes on harmony, eyes on peace, eyes on love. Can you see it in the middle of the challenges of your life? Can you see that divine life that you want to live, that peace? Think about it for a second. What is it? It's peace, it's love, it's fulfillment, it's joy, it's connection. My husband and I went down to San Diego to see the musical Dear Evan Hansen this week. More will be coming about it. I'm still processing. It's such a big, powerful story. But when it comes down to it, and the music was gorgeous and beautiful, the performance was amazing. It was just, I stopped crying about 12 hours later. It was so moving to me. But the idea of it is that it's about connection. It's about true connection and belonging. Those two deep needs that we have in our lives are the core of us and of what we have come here to experience and what we're wanting, what the true desires are. And so what we're wanting to create in our experience is that, when it comes down to it. But what we're each called to do is to find in what way. What way is connection wanting to happen in your world this year? What way is peace of mind? What way is opening to be a channel of divine love and support for others in your world and in the world? Because we know as we give, we receive. And so it's about expanding and opening and seeing clearly our place in the world. So our spiritual practice, again, this year is important. And I really want each of us to find that divine vision for our lives. And so our practitioner, Beth Haas, is doing her vision board workshop again at the end of the year. And let's face it, or at the end of the month. And let's face it, it's always fun to do a vision board. It's really fun. We hang out, we cut up pictures, and we create pretty things and ideas. But you know what? I think that this is actually important work. Because we spend the time in the spiritual practice of opening to the divine idea of our life, and then we create a representation of it using imagery and affirmations and feelings to represent what it is that we're wanting. And so if you've ever thought about doing a vision board, this is the year to do it. Because you will go back to it all year long to get the tone and the essence and the presence that is calling forth to come through you this year. And so as we start that, as we work towards creating something, again, I go back to the words of Ernest Holmes. He said this, and it's amazing to me that I found this week. He wrote this in 26. "We are on the verge of a vast possibility. The individual or nation without a vision must perish until the vision is reborn. What is our vision going to be in the midst of confusion, doubt, and uncertainty? It is either going to fall before the confusion and be destroyed, or something transcendent within us is going to rise and look to a certain future, to an eternal reality, to a God principle, to an infinite presence responding to us according to our acceptance. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that feel like where we are right now? It feels like you're standing on a precipice and we've got a choice. We are either going to rise or we're going to fall. We're either going to allow ourselves to be sucked into the confusion of the world, or we are going to rise into a place to see clearly beyond it and what's possible. So my goal for us, my intention for us, my wish for us is that we each step up and accept the true vision of our being, of what's wanting to come forth in our lives, and allow this divine creative force that is God through us to bring it into being all around us. We can do it. We can do it if we keep our eyes single. We can do it if we remember God every day. We can do it if we commit not only to our spiritual practices, but if we commit to our hearts, if we commit to ourselves, if we commit to seeing God. And that's my wish for each of us in 2020. Perfect vision. Peace and blessings.